Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be in the cosmos. This is Rockin' Larry Locken, your host with the most from coast to coast with all the toast, giving you coolness, hotness, and everything you wantedness. Hey, it's been a long time since we've been on air, but I'm here live tonight, live in the Pleiadian Express Production Studios in Coos Bay, Oregon on the coast, and I've got my co-host with me about 9 hours up the coast in a suburb somewhere of beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. Raquel Toombs. Raquel, how have you been?
Solstice energy kicking my butt.
Yeah, I can feel that. I hear you there. I mean, it's really been a lot the last few days, and I feel an energy transformation going on, and I feel dragged down, and I can feel it like in my bones. What about you?
Oh yeah, same. It's been a lot of work physically, a lot of stretching, a lot of contorting, a lot of I've been really quite tired, but not like tired enough to sleep. My sleeping really hasn't changed, but I've just been feeling quite tired, a little bit nauseous, just waves of nausea come and go, a little bit dizzy and unbalanced. But besides that, feeling really good mentally and spiritually and emotionally. Just have these waves of this, supercharged energy that wreaks havoc on your whole system sometimes. So you got to stay in your space, stay in your zone, breathe, stretch, ground, use the tools that you have, and and keep going back to that place of gratitude, knowing that even though this can be difficult sometimes, this is actually something to be really grateful and happy about.
Well, yeah, you mentioned gratitude and a few other things you mentioned. Like, even though I've been tired lately and I haven't been sleeping well, though, although I got a pretty good night's sleep last night, but I've been, it might be too because of my new job. I work graveyard shift, but I have been having a lot of trouble sleeping. And staying asleep has been a big problem. But yeah, I hear what you mean about doing the stretching. I know my wife and I, Sif, are going to be taking yoga classes starting actually this Tuesday. And I know that she's been getting massage work done to kind of work out some tension, but also work out some issues that are bonded into her body that need to be released. But I do feel a lot of gratitude. You're right. You hit on something good. I've been feeling spiritually okay. And just kind of, I feel myself with this solstice and everything kind of living more, focusing on not having to focus, but living in the now moment, so to speak,
Yeah. And I mean, and thing we were talking about earlier is I find, especially when these really intense waves come through and there's a lot of physical shifting, it can affect you on so many levels, like so many different parts of your body. And you can kind of get sucked into that and kind of bogged down by how difficult it can sometimes be to receive and anchor these higher frequencies, that you can, like, I know with me, I just kind of detach. I'm not as connected. So I get kind of stuck in the physical and I'm not as connected to my higher self. I'm not as connected to the higher energies or my guides. So during those times, I find myself starting, like, I know there's nothing wrong with me physically. I know that what I experience, the physical, the aches and pains, the work that I have to do physically, these certain physical things, I know this is my body's response to the higher frequency energy coming in. I know that it's transforming my body. I know all this stuff, but sometimes I get really bogged down, and then in the back of my mind will come forward and I'll start thinking, oh my God, like there's something wrong with me. Like there has got to be something wrong with me. And I kind of get stuck in that human, because of course a human starts to think, say feeling nauseated or being really hot all of a sudden and then cold, or feeling dizzy, or, aches and pains. That human starts to think, okay, wait a minute, I've felt this before, and this could be arthritis, or this could be whatever. Sorry, I just gotta let Ariel out of the room here. And so as soon as I make the conscious decision to get down, usually on my mat, and do my breathing and do my stretching and connect, I get in this place where I'm like, yes, thank you. And now, I understand, I'm connected now. I'm guided through. I know exactly what's happening in my body. I'm not worried about it. I'm grateful for it. And, it's being in a state of allowing, of surrendering to, and allowing this energy to move through you, and allowing your body and your soul to guide you, and getting out of that mind, which creates resistance to the energies, which causes suffering and pain.
Yeah, do you find like our bodies are like, we talk about frequencies, like our bodies are like almost antennas, like radio stations that can tune into different frequencies, whether it's your higher self or whether it may be an extraterrestrial channeling with your soul family and things of that nature. But our bodies really are like radio stations that can, and as we go through this more and more, I think we learn how to tune into various frequencies. And I really, for some reason, I like that word, frequencies.
Well, we are energy, and we all vibrate at our own different frequency, right? So when these higher energies that are supercharged and very high frequencies come through, it changes our own personal vibration, and we can decide to, and these higher energies, this higher frequency has an impact and a definite effect on the physical body. So we can either do what we normally do to match that vibration, the higher frequencies, or we can, we can't really stay in the lower and not allow, because like I said, that just kind of leads to suffering,
right?
And leads to pain. But we can, you have to be at a certain, you have to keep your vibrations high, because that's where the connection is, a connection to source, a connection to your guides, a connection to even other realms, the fairies, the dragons, our ET families. They're all such a high frequency that if we're sitting here stuck in the lower frequencies, we can't feel them, we can't see them, we can't communicate with them.
No, it's like a radio station that's a little bit too far out of range, right? You can't quite tune into that frequency. If you're stuck in those lower frequencies, you just don't have the wattage to connect. And I think a lot of people, they look for a lot of things with outside of themselves to connect to these frequencies. They look for advice from other people, or may want to copycat what somebody else is doing. But at the end of the day, in your journey, in your individual journey, you really have to go on a lot of that individual journey by yourself. You have to really figure this stuff out on your own, and not just be stuck into what somebody else is saying or what somebody else is posting, or get hung up on, like we were talking in the pre-show, we were talking a little bit about, I mentioned, like, everybody's always posting, oh, the event's coming, the event's coming, the event's coming. Well, really, the event is every second of your life, I think,
Yeah, I think that there are some things that you might come across that will resonate with you, but at the same time, this is a very personal. It's a very personal, individual thing. This process of ascension, evolution, enlightenment. There's a lot of similarities, but it's going to look very different for each individual. So although we may, be collectively feeling, say, a lot in our bodies, or are experiencing similar things, at the same time, there's no one way. There's, it's, we can't really, and I've never been one to go on what anyone outside of me or what everyone else was going on anyway.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've always been, right from the beginning, it's been very, very internal, and very, because I have to, I have to do this myself. No one can do this for me. I have to do this myself. And there are things that I've picked up along the way that have helped, but in order to find my own truths and to grow at my own kind of rate, it has to be natural, and it has to be from within. It has to be based on that internal guidance, and that connected to my soul, which guides me through. There's no instruction manual. There's no one outside of us. What may work for you may not work for me. And that's the beautiful and the hard thing about this process, because there's no one that can do it for you. It's all on you. You know?
I think that's the frustrating part for a lot of people, is that it's hard for them to realize, and or they don't want to, you know, accept the fact and surrender to the fact that, you know, they need to try to tune into their own higher selves and try to think about it and just kind of sit with those thoughts and figure it out. And instead of like having there's no like manual for this. There's no guidelines per se that are going to 100% help you. Of course, you can go with things that resonate with you. You know, on your life's journey, you know, advice that may resonate with you, or you see something that may resonate with you, it's fine. But the true answers are going to have to come from your higher self, and really the old cliche of going within, you know. And I think a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people, that's the hard part about it. A lot of people have trouble surrendering to that fact, but it is the beautiful thing of it once you can understand that. And once you can work within that, you know, I wouldn't say parameters because there's no parameters, but once you work within that.
And it's a constant process of, like, you know, like the spiral, just like, it's like the spiral. It's a constant process of just, it's never ending. You're going within, you're going within, you're going within. And sometimes you slip and kind of pull back a little bit, and almost like there's days where I kind of feel, I don't want to say lost, but almost like more human, more right, like not really connected to that higher part, not really embodying that light, just kind of stuck in the little human mind sometimes. That, and when I'm stuck in that spot, I don't realize how strong I am. I don't realize how powerful I am. Or maybe I do realize it, but I'm not doing anything about it. I'm not actually owning, you know, connecting to that part or owning that part. And I think that's normal, to be very, very connected and to be totally and embodying higher self, and then to kind of go back to not, you know, the human part that is not, I don't know, maybe that's part of that I would work on.
Yeah, well, you touched on something, you know, you mentioned the spiral. It's kind of like a constant evolution spiral of learning, but people need to understand too that spiral not only goes upward, but it's also geometric, which means to say that it goes sideways too. And there's all kinds of little kinks along the way in learning, you know, like you're talking about getting stuck some days, and you may not, you know, realize how powerful you are. So you kind of get, you know, you get stuck in those moments. But, you know, I think we all have those, but, you know, you just got to continue to fight through it. And, you know, this is just a constant, like you said, this is a constant process as humans, as we evolve and move forward. And I know some people want to come kicking and screaming, but it's not something that can be stopped. And, you know, it's something people need to embrace, you know, moving forward with new ideas, and not, you know, just being stuck in the same old. What worked for me yesterday may not work tomorrow, and it may not work today. And what works for me today may not work tomorrow, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's also about making the choice, right? For me, it's as simple as making the choice not to dwell, and it's making the choice of how I want to feel.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about it's choosing how you want to react to a situation, or, you know, understanding that not every day is going to be, you know, roses and peaches. You got to, you know, just move forward with it, and embrace things like, you know, like new technologies, Like, I know we were talking before, and I did want to bring this up real quick, about people maybe getting paranoid or worried about new technologies, that maybe they think that it's not a good thing. But really, when you look at it, we're all involved in it. We all participate in new technologies, and there's no stopping progress, right? Whether you want to call it progress or not. So, I mean, I think it's just a matter of embracing these things. I know a lot of people get worried about Alexa and Google Assistant and things like that, the government listening in on you and things of that nature. Well, that's been going on for about a half a century anyway, and there's really nothing we can do to stop it. And I think that, it's something to be mindful of, but at the same time, I mean, these are new technologies that we participate in that are going to help our day-to-day lives, and it's part of, the transhumanism that we are. It's just all about how we want to use these new technologies, right? Everything can be used for good. Everything can be used for bad. I know a lot of people were worried when they went from the horse and buggy to the automobile, or when the radio came out, or when they went from radio to television and the internet came out. Well, there's a lot of bad things people can say about the internet, but look how it's connected the whole world. I mean, I never would have met the love of my life. I certainly wouldn't have met a wonderful soul sister like yourself, because we, before the internet, we were stuck in our own town. And if you traveled, yes, you could meet other people, but there was really no way of staying connected to people. Maybe you had an old high school friend or something, and they moved away, and you'd never. A lot of people like to bag on that we all use, is a good way to stay connected. I mean, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that stuff anyway.
Well, we're all becoming more connected, which is a really beautiful thing, because there is a whole community of people that are awake and that are aware, and that sorry, I just just went blank here.
No worries.
And we're connected. We can do a lot of good, and I think for me, it's just knowing that I'm not alone in this, because my whole experience with my awakening and everything, it was very, very abrupt, and I didn't know what was happening to me, and it was harsh. And of course, everybody, our stories are a bit different, but a lot of people just have these experiences and they question, like, oh my God, am I crazy? Like, and it's scary, like, what's going on? And so in that aspect as well, to have the support just by reading people sharing their stories, their encounters with other beings, or what they're experiencing. And it takes a lot of strength to put that kind of stuff out there, because that's not the norm. And I know that, in the past, you'd be judged as a weirdo or whatever. But I used to share a lot of really out there personal stuff that I was experiencing, and I got so many responses. And the main thing that I got from that was just people, knowing that, oh my gosh, me too, and I'm not alone. So a lot of us that are on this path, we don't, in our physical reality, we probably don't have very many people that are experiencing, similar to what we've experienced.
No, expand on that a little bit, because I think that is, you just touched on something incredible, because a lot of us, we really don't have anybody in our day-to-day life that we know personally that are going through exactly this, like other people we know, and, whether it's through Facebook or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And we're also sporadically placed throughout the world, like I've met a few people in my physical life that I'm able to talk to, and they've had some pretty awesome experiences, and they're very open-minded and very aware and very awake. And so that's that's pretty awesome. And I'm just finding, like, more and more, like, I was out at London Drugs the other day, and I hear these two guys that are working there, and there's this one, I just say older man, because anyone like my age, or it's like older to me for some reason. But anyway, there's this man with like gray hair and a dress shirt talking to this younger guy, and he says, I just caught part of the conversation. He goes, it was such an enlightening experience, and I really I was really able to I don't remember exactly what he said, but something about really able to have a deeper understanding because of what he experienced. And then he said, he goes, and I'm pretty sure because of that, all my chakras are aligned right now. And I just started kind of smirking and walked away.
Wow.
But it was really quite unexpected. And I just like big smile on my face when I walked away from that, because he's so like, not to, you know, judge or think, okay, well, he's got gray hair and he's wearing a suit and he's working at London Drugs, so he's not spiritual or whatever. No, like, it caught me off guard, right? It just kind of caught me off guard. But
right, but it leaves you with a smile. Yeah,
yeah,
it leaves you kind of with a smile, like, okay, and you get a thought for a second, or at least I do. The few situations I've encountered like that, where you think, okay, gosh, people are finally starting to get it. And, you know, it's just amazing, especially when you hear somebody else using a term like chakra.
Yeah,
You
I know.
it's just like, wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. And I've had a few experiences, like not exactly like what you're saying, but you'll catch part of a conversation at the grocery store or somewhere, and people will use a word like enlightened, or even like you mentioned chakra, and they're just like, and you just have a smile like, okay, wow, people are finally starting to get it. And I think as we've gone through this process, we're getting close to, you know, almost, you know, over a half of a decade, if not close to a decade now, a lot of us, I think that we're seeing people in our own personal lives in little subtle ways affected by it more, and like not as, you know, they don't, at least from my own perception, I don't feel like they think I'm as weird anymore, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So have you found that too? Like people close around you, at least in your mind, you don't feel like maybe they think you're as crazy as you once thought they might think you were, if that makes sense?
Oh, for sure. Like my whole family, who I'm, you know, reconnected with, because for years, I was estranged from my family. My niece is actually over right now out in the living room with mom. But I didn't talk to them for a really long time because the person I was very screwed up. And so it was awesome. They kind of, you know, got to know me again. I got to know them. And I'm finding that right along with me and my process, I can talk to them about absolutely anything, and they're totally, you know, they're totally open and okay with it, and not like they're all very aware, and they know so much about this kind of stuff on one level or another. So, you know, we awaken, we do our work, and we find that nobody in our lives is unaffected.
Yeah.
We're all in this, we're all kind of going through this together on one level or another. So everyone is, so many people are just so awake compared to, you know, walking around in a total slumber.
I think so. And I think we went through a phase where it seemed like a lot of people were just kind of asleep at the wheel, and some people still are. But I think that, like, you're talking about how it affects people around you and everything like that. It's almost like a web connecting everybody together, like kind of how in the cosmos, there's really how do I say it? An invisible web that connects all the stars together. And so it's kind of like a web that's, you know, starting to slowly connect a lot of people together. And whether it's people in our family or whether it's people you work with. And I think we each have that ability on a slight level to affect everybody we run into, down to people we deal with every day, to people that we run into at a grocery store and maybe have a quick interaction with, a teller, a checker, somebody we talk with in an aisle while we're trying to purchase or, you know, grab an item and put it into our cart. Certainly people that we may work with, if, you know, if we're out in the workforce or doing volunteer work or whatever, people that we work with. you can really, you know, with a smile and a joke and a laugh or a thought, you know, you can really, you know, provoke them into awakening and provoke them into, you know, thinking of something maybe they had never thought, or just being yourself and kind of letting your light shine around those people. Really not trying, just by kind of being yourself, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we all, our energy affects, our energy and our vibration affects everyone and everything. You know, we've got this huge energy field. So when we go out, the people that we come in contact with are now in our field. We are in theirs. So it's that exchange of energy. And most people are very, like I'm finding out in public, going out to this store, like, I'm going out for a walk. I mean, I smile at absolutely everybody. And it's a smile from my heart, from my soul, right? Like that's the first thing I do is I used to be a person who looked down at the ground and did not like to make eye contact with anyone. And now I just, you know, I'm at peace and I'm happy most of the time. And I'm loving, I love life, although it can be difficult sometimes. I love life now. And I just find that the majority of the people, I go out and I smile at them. I'll talk to people, and there are so many I've had so many beautiful interactions. And just whether there were words spoken or not, just the feeling like, we took Ariel to the park the other day, and there was this man and this woman and this little girl. She looked like she was about maybe 3 or 4 in her stroller. And she saw Ariel and they were like, oh, a puppy. And so they were both super friendly. And so I picked Ariel up and let the little girl pet her and stuff. And it wasn't just it wasn't just a simple, okay, it's a puppy, thanks, whatever. It was such a heartfelt feeling of gratitude and joy and love that I felt from these people. It was so awesome. And me and Mom walked away. She goes, oh my God, like the gratitude, they were so appreciative. They were like, oh, thank you, like the fact that, I don't know, it's little things like that are really big things. You have these encounters and you're full, when you leave, it's that uplifting, that exchange of energy that just uplifts you all.
I agree. And this is kind of crazy, but I kind of look forward to those encounters, I really look forward when I go to the store, when I'm at work or whatever. I look forward to those encounters with people where you can give them a smile or, have a quick conversation with them and a laugh and leave it with kind of a chuckle and a laugh. It's just amazing. Of course, it helps too when you've got a cool dog like Ariel to steal the show. My dog's a little more grumpier and people get upset because he doesn't like to be petted unless he knows you. But yeah, that's an amazing story. You know what I mean? And it helps when it helps when you got a beautiful sidekick like that with you.
She loves everybody. She's a little love nugget. She loves everybody. I should actually look into taking her and volunteering, maybe at a retirement home or something, or assisted living, or yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah, I think that you just touched on something too about doing that. I mean, in Europe, just from your opinion and your standpoint, how important do you think things like that are to do, to get out and do in the community?
I think that it's not something I've done yet. I spend most of my time really working on me. Sometimes it'll be 10 days, 2 weeks in a row. This supercharged energy will come in, this wave will come in, and I will be physically working it through on the floor. My process has been so incredibly physical for the past just over 5 years. The changes to my body are just incredible. But it has been like such hard work. And there are days where I'm basically sometimes for like 10 days straight, I am on my mat the majority of the day working this through. A lot of people don't understand that, and I don't expect them to.
No.
Because most people would be, will say, well, why are you, what is wrong with you? Well, there's nothing wrong with me, but those are the periods of time where I go through my very rapid growth periods. So I will develop muscles very, very quickly. My body will go to the next level because the energy is so supercharged that's how I respond to it. And that's how I work with it, is through my physical body, transforming my physical body.
Yeah, and I just wanted to real quick before you go on remind people that what you're talking about, Raquel, Raquel and I have discussed this in previous shows. So if you want to go back and listen, Raquel has shared her story on numerous occasions about how incredibly physical these 5 years are. And yeah, go on. But I just wanted to let people know that this is something, and it's an incredible story if you haven't heard it, exactly the stuff she's went through. But yeah, it's amazing.
And it's hard. See, my process, I'm getting, like today, I'm getting a lot of cracking in my head and neck today. And my shoulder blades dislocate. They pop in and out. They like dislocate, go back in and out. But that's normal for me now. And it's not anything that's taken away from me. Like, I think for the past 3 days, I've been doing massive amounts of push-ups. That's just what my body's required. It's like, get down and stretch and do your push-ups. But going back to, community and doing what we can, I think it's really important, and we do what we can when we can. So I think with me, it's kind of, with my family and friends and people online, I'm here to support people as well as work on myself. I'm here to support people. And the most important thing for me is I just want people to know they're not alone. I don't teach anyone. I can't guide anyone. We all activate everyone we encounter. So we do, but as far as, and I do healings for people, physically and remote. So, I would like to get out into the community more. Me and Mom had went to Janice's, I think it was last week. There was a detour. And so we took this detour, and there was this older man. He was probably in his 80s, in one of those, those scooter things. And he fell off him and his scooter or wheelchair, whatever it was, fell off the curb. And we were like, oh my God. So we pulled over, and I ran out, and there was like two or three other cars that pulled over. The sidewalk that he was traveling on, it had a kind of a tree on the side. So it wasn't level, it was curved. And so those things are really heavy. Those motorized scooters, oh my God, those are heavy. So thankfully there was a group of people that all stopped and lifted the scooter up. And I just, my heart was just like, oh my gosh. So I made sure he was okay before everyone went to try and move him quickly. And I'm like, wait a minute, don't move him. Something might be broken. So I made sure he was okay, asked if he was hurting anywhere. Then we got him up and sat him on his scooter. And we were asking, well, where are you going? Where did you come from? Where do you live? And he was just, he had tears in his eyes. He was very shook up, and he said that he had just come from the cemetery, and he said that he'd taken his wife and his son some beautiful flowers, and he was going to go visit a friend in an assisted living home down the street. And my heart just really went out to him, and he didn't have anyone. One of the ladies said, well, do you have anyone I can call? We can call. He said no. And so he had no one. And and then my grandma actually recently transitioned. And so that happened shortly after my grandma transitioned. And so that was kind of, I think, he was put in my place for a reason, maybe to show me that there's more that I should be, that I could do now, and how I could be of service to others. So I think it would be a really good idea to, and I'm going to look into it. And as far as just volunteering, just getting out there and volunteering a few days a week or a couple days a week, because there's so many people that don't have anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about finding your niche of where you want to volunteer. Like you're looking into it at an assisted living facility.
Yes.
There's other people that, you know, may want to look into doing it at a homeless shelter. But I think it's about like I think you're kind of being guided to maybe do it, your personal volunteer work, to do it like at an assisted living facility. It seems to me like, and that's just my thoughts, that it's kind of maybe pushing you in that direction, you know?
That's what I felt. That's what I felt right after that, because I had went up, like grandma was in hospice for a couple weeks, I think, before she transitioned. And it was a really, it was not a good experience, because there was stuff going on with the family, and there was a lot of stuff coming up for this person, and she wasn't dealing with it well. And so it was very stressful. But me and my sister and my mom, even amongst all that, we were able to hold space and maintain a loving, peaceful environment and vibration for my grandma. So that was like, when we got back here, it felt like I was in a battle and had to recover. It took a while to recover from that, because that was some pretty heavy, and I was doing energy work on her the whole time. And so was Ariel. And then, and then that encounter with that man, I mean, there was a detour. And so that's why we were there. If that detour hadn't have been on the street, if that construction wasn't going on, we wouldn't have been there. I just see that everything, there's no mistakes, and that everything, the universe will guide you, will put people and situations in your place to move you forward on your path.
Yeah, no question about it. And people can listen to that and hear that and think, oh, well, that just sounds like a new age mumbo jumbo, but it really is true. I mean, nothing happens everything happens for a reason, to throw another cliche out there. And you're right about the detour. And that is an amazing story. I'm glad you shared it, because that I was sitting here thinking as you were talking about it, it just kind of brought, not a tear to my eye, but it brought, it's a happy I got choked up a little bit in a happy way. And I wanted to extend my condolences to you too, about your grandmother just transitioning. And I think you really handled it. It seemed to me, with your posts and stuff like that, you really handled it amazingly well. And, maybe that's not something 10 years ago you would have handled as well.
No, absolutely not. And I'll tell you an experience that we had, me, my mom, my sister, while we were in the hospice with her. So we were going through a lot. There was a lot of stress and a lot of really heavy, dense energy that we were transmuting very quickly. And it was really taking a toll on all of us. And so it had been a really cloudy day, and it was just around sunset. So that was probably close to 9:00. And all of a sudden, okay, I'm sitting there on the couch beside grandma's bed. And sorry, I'm just letting Ariel in the room. Come on, sweetie. And I saw two flashes of light out of the corner of my eye, which I didn't, quite often I see things like that, but this was very, very bright and very, almost like lightning. There was no lightning. And then all of a sudden I saw this golden light, and it was more than just the golden light from the sun. It was such an incredible golden light, and it was shining through the window at the foot of her bed. And I said to my mom, can you check and just make sure the sun's shining? Because I don't know what's happening here. So she looked, she goes, yeah, the sun is actually out. And so it was just setting. So I and it was more than just seeing this golden light. I felt it. I felt it through every part of me. And it was so pure and so beautiful and so healing. And it probably was about 20 minutes or maybe less. I don't know. Time is kind of weird. But it started out at the foot of her bed. And then there was rainbows shooting all on the wall from this little crystal that was on the window. And then it just kind of went up the foot of the bed, traveled up towards her head. And then as that was it, the sunset. But it was more than the sunset. And I said to my sister, "Do you feel that?" And she said, "Wow." Like, it was such a peaceful, that was a gift. That was a gift that we were given from my grandma, from my pappy, from God, I guess you could say. That was like a gift from God, because it was all the stress, all the stress, all the pain, all the trauma and attacks and everything that we were going through there instantly lifted. We all slept that night. We hadn't been sleeping or eating up to that point, but it was just it was such a beautiful gift. And it was I really believe too, we weren't able to be there when my grandma transitioned because of some things that were going on, and it was very hurtful. And I didn't I kind of didn't respond as peacefully as I probably should have, but that was a lesson for me. But that was our goodbye, and that was a gift that we were given for doing the work that we did, and holding space for grandma. So that was, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. I really believe it. And I just, as you were describing that, I was visioning sitting in a hospital room and seeing that, that shooting on the wall, that just shining on the wall, and the rainbow transmuting that energy and that love into that room. And I kind of just, I feel a warmth hearing it right now, hearing that story. That's amazing. And I'm sorry maybe that you didn't act as peacefully as you think you should have, but it seems to me like you handled it quite well. And yeah, that's amazing. I'm just kind of taken back by it. Thank you for sharing that story. But,
Yeah.
So how it has that, did you find that during this time at all, the relationships kind of, was there any change in the relationship? Like maybe have you and your sister gotten closer? Did this experience help anything along that way, or was it already moving forward before this happened?
It really brought us very close, much closer together. My sister, we didn't, well, of course, like I was really fucked up for a really long time. So she swore at one point she would never have anything to do with me again. So it's been, like I said, just over 5 years, and we've slowly reconnected, and this was just this brought us very close. And I think grandma had that all planned out anyway, because grandma always wanted us to be really close and knew that we weren't. And so that was something that we were able to show her there before she transitioned. So that was pretty awesome too.
Do you feel like, do you feel your grandmother's presence still around you in a lot of ways, or has the time really settled yet for you to embrace that or to notice that yet? I mean,
it's weird because Pappy, her husband, my Pappy, I think it was about 6 or 7 months or so after he transitioned, I had my walk-in experience, very abrupt awakening, whatever you want to call it. And Pappy was one of the first and main ones that came through. And I could hear him, of course, not externally, but I could hear him within me, helping to guide me through. I could feel him hold my hand. And like, he couldn't help me. Like he was raised Catholic, but he wasn't Catholic. He would pray, but he was also a very in tuned energy worker. He was an empath and very, very sensitive. He was very connected. He was very wise. And I didn't really I didn't really connect with him. I connected with him more after he transitioned, actually, on that level than I did when I was growing up and he was in the physical, because there was a lot of things that he didn't talk about, but a lot more became clear to me in my communication with him now. So he's been a huge part of my process. With grandma, I think it was the night after she transitioned. I was already at home. We'd come home, I think 2 or 3 days before she passed, and I was doing a lot of energy work on her, and particularly her feet and her crown. For some reason, that's what I felt guided to do, to focus that energy on the feet and the crown. And there were times where I would just kind of, lightly stroke the top of her head, do a little bit of tapping, but lightly stroke the top of her head. And so I think it was about 2 or 3 nights after we got home, a day after she had transitioned, I'm lying in bed and I feel this touch on the top of my head, and I went, and I hit myself on the head because I thought maybe it was a huge spider or something, but that was grandma. So I've had that, but I haven't really heard her or connected with her yet like I have with Pappy.
Right. Well, yeah. And you mentioned that it took about 6 or 7 months. So really the time hasn't settled, but I would be surprised if maybe that didn't start happening around, like, say, the first of the year, the change of the decade,
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. 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 I think she's just got some shit to clear up.
Yeah. She's just getting used to living on these cool higher dimensions. So she'll get with you probably around Christmas time.
She's trying to figure out how to levitate the plants in my room.
There you go. There you go. No kidding.
How does this work? I have no hands, but I
do. Yeah. We'll give her a few months to catch on to that.
Yes.
Raquel, I came across earlier today a question in a group, and I mentioned to this person in the post that we would be on live tonight. And this is kind of I don't really know how to answer this question, even though it's straightforward, but she's wanting to know how to keep her frequency level up while being confronted by a hostile person or somebody that's in a hostile mood. I mean, that's I guess that would just depend on how hostile in this situation, don't you think?
I think it would, but I think that it's a process, and it's something that you have to work on and maintain before you can actually use it in all situations. So we keep our vibrations high. We learn to master our own energy, but that takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication and devotion to ourselves. And the people that, as we're working on that, the universe, thank you, universe, always will throw those people in to help us master that.
Thanks.
To teach us that lesson, right? So when I was saying there was a situation I didn't deal with well, when it came to being up at hospice with my grandma, there was someone that was very angry and was very cruel. And I can understand why, but at the same time, I don't agree with lashing out at people. And so I kind of had that was like the final straw. And so I went to talk to this person and asked them a question. And I was very calm as I was asking this question. And then I lost it. And I just, you are a fucking horrible person. I can't believe. And then I was like, I yelled. And then afterwards I was like, oh my God, I'm so disappointed in myself. Like, I've been doing the work. I've done the work. I should have remained calm. I should have remained peaceful, and I should have walked away and not yelled at someone. But you know what? That was obviously something that I still hadn't mastered. And that was an opportunity. And although it was shitty, okay, it was an opportunity that came up that showed me, okay, well, this is the work. Here's the opportunity. So maybe next time I will have mastered that, or maybe not.
Yeah, or maybe not. No, that's a perfect way to look at it too. Sometimes we'll do things like that kind of disappoint ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. But you can't always, there's going to be situations that come up with that in life. And I look at it this way too. It's very possible that part of that too is that maybe that person was meant to kind of have you lash out at them to get them to think about something, if that makes any sense. I know that it still doesn't excuse, of course, like you said, us, not mastering what we should in that situation. But sometimes situations come up and are just meant to go down that way as learning lessons for both. It could have been a learning lesson for both you and that individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's certain situations too, when it comes to someone being cruel or being unjust or someone being hurt. It's not all like, I love you, I forgive you. I mean, sure, it is, but not in that moment. In that moment, we still have to sometimes just speak your mind and say what what you're doing is not right. This is bullshit. I don't agree with this. And speak your piece and walk away.
Exactly. And that's not to, excuse me, but that's not to say that you just do that in every situation willy-nilly, just, well, I'm just gonna, because sometimes I hear people go, well, I'm just speaking my mind. But sometimes it's about how you do it and it's how you put it. And you can't just walk away with it not thinking to yourself, hey, I've got to, there's always something I could do to improve or do it better. That's not to say to beat yourself up, but you can't just be, oh, well, that's just how it is, and I'm not going to try to work on how I, approach things. But you're right. There are certain situations where it's required for a teaching lesson for that person, maybe to speak your mind, to say what's up, And I know with a person like you that if a situation like that comes up, and you do what you did, it's going to be justified most of the time. This is not just something that you would have just randomly went up to the street and went off on somebody or in a store over some little petty bullshit issue,
Well, also like this whole, love and light. Yeah, okay, we're loving, we're loving. I don't like like I don't consider myself new age. I don't consider myself a light worker. Because I don't like these labels, and you can't put me in a box. You never been, I've never been a person that you can, that would go into, I don't know, anyway. People think that when you're a very loving and forgiving and accepting person, some people think anyway, that, okay, well, then you're a pushover and they can do what they want and you're not going to say anything. And no, that's not true, because you get to a point where you stand in your power, you work on yourself, you love yourself, you stand in your power. So you have boundaries, you have healthy boundaries. And if someone tries to, pardon my language, fuck with you, you won't allow it anymore. That pisses some people off, but you won't allow it anymore because you love and respect yourself that much. So it's not a matter of being like, you can be vulnerable and you can be loved, but at the same time, you can be a kick-ass warrior,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not about just a phony smile and, oh, love and light worker. I mean, I know you and I both agree on this. We can't, I'll use those labels sometimes because there's no other 3D words I can come up with, but I just can't really stand the genericness of hearing it. You know what I mean? That, oh, love and light to you. And, and somebody could completely mean it from the bottom of their heart and their soul, but it sounds, all these labels sound too stereotypical, new agey, stereotypical to me, and I agree with you 100%. Sometimes you just got to lay it down to people, and if they don't like it and think that that's not very enlightened or that that's not very nice, well, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's sometimes the way it goes, because you got to look at what that person did to push you to that point of doing what you did. I mean, sometimes they're not willing to look at what they did to get that reaction from you.
Well, I mean, it's usually all projection anyway. Projecting their issues onto you and seeing that in you. But I just think that it's just about standing in your power and having healthy boundaries. And with me, it's like I've met some people, and then everything was fine, and then they'd start projecting, and I just cut it off. I just cut it off. Like, I'm not going to have anyone treat me like shit. I'm very choosy with who I surround myself with. I'm not a very social person. I don't have a lot of friends. I tried going out to a couple of these, groups and circles or whatever. They're not for me, because there's too much. I prefer to work on myself, and there was just too much. I don't know. It wasn't for me, put it that way. And so I just basically, I respect the fact that everyone is on their, on their own kind of path, on their own journey. We're all at different levels. But I would rather surround myself with people that are actively participating in their own healing, and working on themselves and working on bettering themselves. And I'm here for if anyone needed my help, just to support them. I'm here, and I listen, and I love, and I care. But at the same time, I'm very choosy about who I really allow in, because I have a very peaceful life, and that's why. There's just not a lot of people that I resonate very deeply with.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. And if somebody insists on blowing my bliss, not to quote an old song, but I mean, it just makes me pissed. I mean, and I don't want people like that in my inner circle or around my corner. I like being on Facebook. I like interacting with people, but I don't like to do a lot of private messaging with people, because I just don't have the time to. And unless it's somebody I'm really close with, I just don't go there. And people that I'm really close with, connected with intuitively, like a person like yourself, there's not a lot of shit that needs to really be said. We're all working on our own personal things, yet here for each other. So there's not a lot of 3D earth talk that needs to go on. And when it's necessary to do so, we'll be there for each other, of course. But I'm just not into. I just don't have the time for a lot of small talk on issues that aren't helping me, in my life and on my journey. I don't, but of course, like you said, if somebody really needed some advice or some help and I have the time, I'll try to be there for them. But, I've got a full schedule going on too with, my family life, my wife, shout out to my wife, Sif Gunner's daughter, Locken, executive producer of Pleiadian Express Productions. But I got a really job that I really, really like working, and the people I like dealing with, and I love dealing with them on a personal level in 3D. I just don't have the time for a lot of it just it just is what it is. Like you're doing your thing, I do my thing, and everybody does their thing. And but back to what we were talking about, is sometimes it's just it just can't be helped but to be direct with somebody. And if that don't work, that's not somebody that you need to have in your inner circle or around in your life. If it's not resonating with you, or if it's not if it's causing you harm or discomfort, that's something that you need to either try to work out really quickly with them, or just kind of move on, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then also, the quote, "What we allow is what will continue." I mean, that's totally true.
Oh, big time.
That's totally true. You see, that's the thing. Like, we get to decide. We get to decide, and sometimes it's really difficult to have a look at say, a relationship or friendship, and it's sometimes really hard to have a really good look at it, especially if it's dysfunctional. To have a look at it and then make the decision to let it go. That's a really difficult thing to do. And I don't know.
Yeah, you see that, like what you're saying, right, Raquel? You see that in a lot of, I'll use just a stereotypical issue. You see that in a lot of domestic violence problems between people, right? It's like we have in most cases, I'm not saying all, because there's a lot where there's other factors involved, but in most cases, there is a choice there to cut that off or to stop that relationship, right? And it may not be easy. It can be really difficult. They may have to stay for financial reasons. There could be other things involved, but we have basically at the end of the day a choice, and sometimes those choices to move on for the better thing are not always easy. And I'm not trying to judge anybody in that situation because I'm not in their situation, but yeah, the choice is definitely at some level, and at some point it does become theirs.
Well, I mean, I learned that through, my life before. I was in very abusive relationships, and that's I chose to stay because I didn't feel like there was any way out. I didn't love myself, I didn't honor myself, and I didn't realize that I could choose. Um, so, and those were, I look back at all those experiences in my life and that I had prior to my awakening, and I'm at a place now where I am, there's forgiveness there, forgiveness of myself for not knowing any better, or, and forgiveness for the other people. And then to go beyond that too, there's gratitude for everything I experienced, no matter how painful or traumatic it was at the time, because we all had to go through a hell of a lot of darkness to get to where we are now. And I think a lot of us are getting to the point where that's been our work here. That has been our work here, to be completely entrenched and sunken down into the darkness, and to discover our power and our light, and climb our way out of hell, basically, and then be the example, and be the person that can now show others, that light. There's a way out. There's a way out. You can do this. I can't tell you how to do it, but you can. If I can, you can too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I kind of look at it that way too. That I feel like that sometimes in my own way. Like, okay, well, if I can do this, you can do this. If I can do public speaking, you can do public speaking. Because I'll say like, well, I'm a shy person, and I'm not. It's hard for me to be social and everything like that. So if I can do it and stand in my light and get out of the situation and into a better situation to help people, then you can do it too. It's there. It's there by connecting to your higher self, and we're doing the inner work. You've got to do the work, but if you do the work, you can improve situations in your life. On so many geometric levels. It's not just moving upward. There's so many side issues and things like that you can work on. It's just life is very intricate, and every step of the way, every little step you take and do affects every step on down the road.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to share this with you. So, because we haven't talked for a while, so I don't think I shared this with you. So I went, it was in the winter, so it was probably like maybe January or February, maybe it's February. I went after 5 years and saw my old methadone doctor, who is also a psychiatrist. And he was the one, he would always talk to me. He was more of a Eastern philosophy, and he would talk to me about mindfulness and being non-judgmental. He's an Iranian man, and just such a lovely man. And so I just felt, okay, because of my experience, like one day I was a heroin addict on methadone, very sick, and then basically it was almost like overnight. It was like I wasn't, and that was just not part of my life anymore. So he hadn't seen me for a really long time. So I made an appointment, and I went in and saw him. And when he came out and called my name, and I stood up, and he looked at me, like the look on his face was just like, he didn't even recognize me. He was just like, whoa, kind of shook his head. And he just smiled the whole time. But I went in his office and I told him, so this is what happened to me. I said, I had the death of the old, death of the ego. I had a very quick rebirth. From that day on, I never craved heroin, because the person that is sitting in front of you right now never used. So why would I crave? And then I told him about the colors I see, and I told him about how my diet had changed, and about yoga and my guided movements and breathing and kundalini and my chakras. And I talked to him about all this, and he just sat there and smiled the whole time. And then I said, and then I gave him a nice crystal point. And he said, can I ask you about this? And I said, yeah, sure. It's golden rutile and quartz. He goes, no, but like it didn't cost much, did it? Because I'm not allowed to accept gifts from patients. And it was kind of like, well, good thing I'm not a patient, right? But it was just so awesome to go to show him and for him to witness him being a psychiatrist and an addictions doctor, for him to just witness my transformation and how it happened to me and be able to share my story with the psychiatrist about all this stuff. And he was totally happy for me and was smiling, and he didn't look at me like I was crazy. And because he knew, because here I was sitting in front of him, a completely different person. So he knew that, okay, something definitely happened here that I can't quite explain, but he was really happy for me. So that was a really awesome experience for both of us, I think.
Wow, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I was just sitting here listening to you and thinking about his reaction, and being that he's a psychiatrist, but also that he's into a lot of Eastern philosophies, probably as far as medicine goes. It probably really got him. It probably really got him thinking a lot more per se than it would your typical. For instance, I go to an addiction specialist because I take a medicine called Suboxone that I take one a day for my pain, and when it's also because I was an opiate addict, and it's also an opiate blocker. But it's a wonderful medicine. But anyway, he would look at me if I went in there and talked to him about all that stuff. He would look at me cross-eyed and be like, "Yeah, okay." It's just amazing that. It's amazing, and I bet it put a smile on your face, I bet, and it probably made his day, and I guarantee you he left work that day, and maybe not completely thought about it, but he really gave a lot of thought to seeing you, and you just probably actually kind of made his day a little bit, and that's a great story, and I bet you felt great after doing it.
Oh, it was awesome. And I mean, I see, and I told him too, at the beginning of my process, I said, I didn't know what was happening to me, but your words that you used to tell me when I used to go in there, he would talk to me and ask me questions, and he would say, just allow yourself to feel whatever it is you're feeling, no good, no bad, don't judge it, just allow. And so I was always like, just give me my prescription. Like, I don't want to hear this. Like, so just give me my prescription, right? Like, just shut up. And I wasn't always very friendly to him. And, but those words, that knowledge, those seeds, they stayed with me, because right at the beginning, when I didn't know what was happening, I could hear him in my mind, helping me through. And so, and calming me right down. And he was right there with me because of the words that he spoke all the time. So, so I got it, and I told him that too. And I wanted to make sure he knew how important, that maybe I wasn't ready for that information before. And maybe it didn't seem like it was making a difference, but it got me through. So he was definitely an angel placed in my path, and there was the divine plan in place even back then, So yeah, so that was really
everybody plants. You talked about planting that seed, but it almost got me to thinking that every interaction that you have, especially an interaction like that, or your interactions with your doctor, like that, it just it plants a seed in us, and it's part of helping that seed sprout every little step. And sometimes it's just little things that are told to us that we remember, to do that in interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I'm glad you shared that story. I kind of feel good about hearing that now. But yeah, wow. Oh man, what a great conversation we've had tonight. Is there anything, we've just kind of been free flowing at this. Is there anything else like on your mind that's going on, or anything that you wanted to address that's, anything going on Facebook you want to address, anything going on in the world you want to address per se?
No, I just have a lot of cracking in my cranium right now.
Lucky. I try to pop my neck, and I can't pop my neck anymore hardly. I pop the shit out of my knee every night in bed, and it annoys my wife hearing all my bones and knuckles crack. But yeah, I just oh yeah, yours is in your cranium. I've only had my cranium like crack, like you're talking about. I've only really had that once in my life, and it sounds like it felt good, and I'm kind of jealous.
It's kind of it's a release, that's for sure, an expansion. And a lot of people too are, I've well, not a lot, but a handful of people I've heard talk about the changes to the skull. You'll notice that your skull, you'll get these little bumps that maybe weren't there before, or little divots or grooves, like something's definitely. And there's a correlation between that, and I've always been fascinated with the Shaolin monks. And I was watching a YouTube video, and they were talking about the Shaolin monks, and one of the things they do is repeatedly bang their head against the temple wall, because it activates something about the changing the shape of the skull, activates the light body. So although I'm not repeatedly banging my head against any wall, I do a lot of yoga, and in my yoga, I do a lot of headstands and, stretching my neck out on my mat. My head kind of rolls around on my mat. And so I just found that was interesting to see that, that connection. The reason why they changed the shape of their skulls is quite brutal, the way they do it, but they believe that because it activates the light body. So you go through these activations and your head starts cracking, don't worry about it. It's okay. You're going to be fine. Unless you're concerned, then go see a doctor. Then they'll tell you have some kind of weird syndrome. But yeah. cracking head syndrome, apparently it's a thing. But yeah,
if you go to go ahead.
There's a lot of physical things, weird, odd physical sensations, pains, discomfort, guided movements, all sorts of weird things that I've experienced over the past 5 years. And when I check in, and my knowledge and my understanding and my experience has been that change the vibration of the container, and the container changes. So change the frequency of the container, and the container changes. So as you work on keeping your vibrations high, allowing these shifts, shifts of higher energy to occur, you're vibrating a lot higher. So your container is going to expand and change. So that's not always a really easy thing, but we chose all this. We didn't choose the easy way. This is, this is actually a really good thing. We're evolving, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, if you went to a doctor, I was just going to say jokingly, if you went to a doctor in the United States with an issue like that, because of our healthcare system here and how money-making laden it is, they would send you for all kinds of tests, and you need this test done, and you need that test done, and they'd send you on a roller coaster ride of tests if you came in to try to figure out what was going on with you.
Oh,
but
for sure.
Best just to go to a chiropractor.
Yeah, it's funny. I went to a chiropractor once. I was having oh man, rough time. And I remember going outside and looking up at the stars, and I said, just tell me what to do here. Help me out, because I just don't. And I heard, just go to a chiropractor. And I thought, oh, I don't want to go to a chiropractor, but okay, I'll go. So I went to a wellness center, went to a chiropractor. He was more interested. I was sharing with him a bit about my process and the changes to my body and my past heroin addiction and all that stuff. So we sat and talked for 40 minutes. He was just fascinated. And then he went to do an adjustment on me. I think it was my lower back. And he tried up between my shoulder blades and my neck, and nothing would adjust. Nothing would adjust. And he's like, well, I guess that's all I can do. I'm not going to force it. I'm like, okay. So he was really nice. And like I said, we had a great conversation. I get home, get on my yoga mat, and right away there was a cracking from my tailbone right up to my neck. And it was crack, 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 crack. And everything just totally aligned. So I didn't even need to go to a chiropractor.
Oh, that sounds so fucking Oh, that sounds just, what's the word I'm looking for? That sounds so blissful and relaxing. That sounds like ecstasy to have done. That's just amazing.
Well, our bodies will do it. If we move out of the way, we let them, we let them guide us. We just move out of the way. Everything will align. We just have to stop resisting and just listen and go with it.
Align those chakras. Align those chakras. Yeah. Vertically, horizontally, and geometrically. Align those chakras. Exactly. Hello, are you there? Hey. I think it's been a really great. I think it's been a really great show. A lot of information. I really don't have a whole lot more that I really wanted to touch on. If there's any other last thoughts that you would like to share with anybody out there, do you have any?
I have no thoughts.
Good. That's good. No thoughts. Raquel is vacant. Raquel is out of her body. She's up in the higher dimensions right now. She's just, yeah, exactly. Well, how about this? How about this for a thought? How about you telling, if anybody's interested, I know that you talk so much about like how you just love to converse with people all the time. Why don't you tell everybody out there that may be listening to this show on YouTube, where in the limited but yet expansive universe they could find out about Raquel Toombs or find out where she's at? On, not in real life.
You can find me on Facebook, on my timeline.
Yeah.
Or on my Facebook page.
You want to give a little plug to your wonderful group, Elementals Photography?
Yeah, I run a couple little groups.
Yeah, she does, and she admins for some of the ones that I've created over the years. I know that she just loves that I made 1,000 of them over a couple of year period, but I want to let everybody know my group making days are long gone. It would take a reason even Raquel would agree with for me to ever do one again. And my wife as well. I think my wife and Raquel are in the same boat of thinking I've made way too many of those. But yeah, you can find Raquel on her timeline. You can find her in a couple of her little groups. Elementals Photography is a really cool group. You might check out. Yeah, and you can check out a lot of our past shows, which when I post these shows that we do, I also put a playlist together of the previous shows that we have done on what I like to affectionately call Pleiadian Late Night Talk, even though it's not really that late at night where we are. It's kind of late night on the East Coast of Canada and the United States and the rest of North America and whatever time.
Somewhere.
It's late night, and goddamn it, it's late night in Nova Scotia, girl.
Yeah, there we go.
In Nova Scotia, New York. But anyway, you can find me, of course, on. You can find me on Facebook. This channel, Pleiadian Express Productions, also has a page. I'm going to make it real simple for everybody. I have 1 million pages and a few different channels, but you can mainly find them all in one place on a page on Facebook called Pleiadian Groups and Pages. Now, there's a group by that same name, but I don't really do anything with that anymore. The only reason I created it was because back then on pages, it wouldn't show the actual icon of the when you tried to post it. Anyway, just forget about it. Go to Pleiadian Groups and Pages, the page, and you can see a list of the 20 pages and 40 different Facebook groups that I've created and my YouTube channels. This one, Pleiadian Express Productions, as well as Pleiadian Light Grid Project, where I do some experimental stuff and stupid little humorous things. I try to keep it serious here on the PEP, on the Mothership channel. And you can check that out. I do also have a website, PleiadianExpressPro.wix.com. You can go there, and it has links to everything I do. And I'd encourage people out there to do volunteer work, donate to good causes. One cause you could donate to is you could donate to Pleiadian Express Productions through PayPal at lockenlarry@gmail.com. But I'd rather have you take that money and donate it to a cause like a homeless shelter or something like that, or an animal shelter. That would be, if you had the notion to donate, do something like that. I think that's about it. We talked a lot. My mind's a little bit hazy now, and Raquel, I think we're ready to Give everybody a big cosmic dating game kiss sign off.
Mwah.
Mwah. And we're out. Rocken, Locken, and Ravishing Raquel, we're out.